Yes, Vasmati ma'am, you can start, ma'am.
Eminent speakers of this FDP, Mr. Praveen Singh and Mr. V. Rajesh Verma, respected Principal Dr. R.V. Krishnaya Garu, Honorable Director Professor N. Venkatrao Garu, Coordinator of this program Mr. V. Dinesh Babu, Dean of Academics Professor K. Venkatramaya Garu, HOD of CSC Department Professor K. Venkateswar Rao Garu, and participants from various institutions across the country. Good afternoon, everyone. I deem it great pleasure and immense honor to welcome you all on behalf of Chebroly Engineering College to this 3-day FDP on advances in artificial intelligence, data science, and cloud computing, which is being organized by the Department of Computer Science and Engineering. I would like to convey special thanks to our organizing committee for their efforts in organizing this program. Firstly, I would like to introduce our principal, Dr. R.V. Krishnaya Garu. He is a visionary and a man of self-discipline with exceptional leadership qualities. He has double MTech, one in ECE from NIT Warangal and one in CSC from JNTU Hyderabad. He was conferred with a doctorate in ECE from JNTU Anantapur. He has more than 150 publications in national and international journals. He has organized and attended several conferences and workshops. He rendered his services in various capacities as assistant professor, associate professor, and principal at many reputed engineering colleges for over 3 decades. He works persistently with strategic planning for the flourishment of our institution. He asserts that the way to success is continuous pursuit of knowledge. He tries to put in his untiring efforts to motivate the students and guide them towards bright careers. He is very dynamic and a source of inspiration to all of us. Now I'm delighted to introduce the keynote speakers of this program. Mr. Praveen Singh is a data scientist at HSBC Bangalore. He has more than 10 years of experience. And Mr. V. Rajesh Verma is a senior architect at Infosys. He has more than 20 years of experience. They have strong foothold on the latest and trending domains like artificial intelligence, big data, cloud computing, and data science. These emerging technologies would inevitably take the front seat in the coming days, and so they deserve our attention more than ever. We are privileged to have resource persons like them who have a great deal of experience in these futuristic technologies. Their expertise in the subject will help us gain immense knowledge. We are very grateful to them for their kind acceptance and precious time. We hope that all the participants will have fruitful and prodigious sessions ahead on all the 3 days. May I now humbly welcome Mr. Praveen Singh to commence today's session.
So thank you, ma'am. So let me share my screen first.
1 second, sir. I'll make you as
Yeah,
host so that you can share the screen.
sure.
Yeah, sir. Now you can share your screen, sir.
Sure, sure. So yeah, good afternoon, everyone. So let us start. So agenda is our, like, we just quickly give you a walkthrough about data type and functions which is being used in data science, and we'll talk about somewhat how exactly the journey from manual to BI and to AI, and then problem landscape, and then we will define how exactly the data science is being defined, and we will give you the clarification about people may have some sort of miscommunication, or maybe you can say like confusion regarding data science and data analyst. So we will clarify that as well. Now then I'll talk about some sort of toolbox as well. So I'm always keeping in mind, like, everybody has a base, means I'm just creating a base from here onwards. So you can say it's a kind of base which I will create now from, and after that, from tomorrow onwards, from every session you will get one sort of case study, okay, which we will show in the session only. Okay, so it's just a base creation of yours. So yeah, everybody about knows about, like, what exactly the data type, basic data type means. Like, if you have done some sort of work on C, C++, Java, or maybe in any language, then you must have felt like Boolean, there is a data type, integer, long, float, string, and these are the things. Now, what is different in Python? So we have list, tuple, set, dictionary. Okay, so list, you know, like use when you need an order sequence of homogeneous or heterogeneous collection. Okay, whose value can be changed. If you wanted to change in later of the program, then you can change that. Now the next is tuple. Tuple is being used when you have heterogeneous collection. Here not homogeneous. I am saying heterogeneous collection whose value need not be changed later in the program. Okay, means you have fixed that means it's being fixed. Now set, when we do not have to store duplicates and you are not concerned about the order or the item. Okay. Now dictionary, this is ideal when you wanted to do the things with keys and values. Okay, so you just need to refer the keys and you will get entire values, what are corresponding values are present in that your dictionary. Okay, so yeah, somewhat like somewhat mathematically how exactly the sum of, yeah, I can show you like numpy, which is nothing but the main object in the homogeneous multidimensional array, and it has associated with math function. You can say fast math function. Okay, it also provides simple routine of linear algebra. So generally whatever we do in data science means generally we used these kind of data types, which is, you know, um, most of the time we are using that. And even if you will wanted to do something on data science, then you have to have some sort of grip on this. Okay, so numpy, so it's just you need to import numpy and just you need to call whatever you wanted to call. So here you can see like I just arrange 15 and reshape into 3 cross 5. So you know, it's a kind of array which is being created like three rows and 5 columns. Okay, now if you will talk about pandas, so in pandas has three things. Okay, first one, series. Pandas has multiple things, but I'm just talking about few things which are quite being used most of the time, you can say. And means you can say like here the series is one dimensional labeled array capable of holding any data type. Okay, and data frame. Data frame is nothing but the two-dimensional labeled data structure with the column of potentially different types analogous to stretch, or you can say you assume data frame is a kind of thing which is exactly similar to the your SQL table. Okay, I don't know how many of you have used a SQL server, or maybe you can say like means Excel also you might have used. So in Excel you must have some sort of table. Now that table, if I wanted to use, how I am going to use in Python, so I will call that file. I will import that file into and I will bring it into data frame. I will convert it into the data frame, which is a very simple step. I will show you in means later and how exactly you need to do. So everything comes in as a data frame. So now you have to deal all the things in data frame only, because Python pandas all the operations, okay, which is applicable in Python, you can say all the operation is being applied on data frame. Okay, once you have data frame ready, you can do whatever you wanted to do. You wanted to delete a column, you wanted to add, insert any rows, whatever application you wanted to apply, you can apply. And yeah, as I said, like series is nothing but the one dimensional labeled array, which you can see here the sample which I have showed you. Now function is nothing but means you in every language the function definition is almost same. Oh, okay, but here something different, how to initiate, how to call the function, and how exactly you have to use the function. So here it's a kind of, you know, I'm not gonna say like why function is being used. You everybody knows like to reuse the code and maybe you have to call it multiple times, then why you will write same code repeatedly. So instead of writing same code repeatedly, you will create one function and you can use it wherever you want the same calculation. So here I have given you one sample like how exactly you need to create a function. So I have just imported the pandas, okay, library as pd and numpy. So now here we have data. Now I'm just converting this to getting this data into some data frame, which is nothing but the df. Now I just wanted to know like I'm just wanted to create three columns, which is nothing but the abc, so which is being created through df dot columns, and that is a list. Okay, now I'm just creating one function, and this functionality is nothing but, you can see here, this function adds all the values in the array and return the half of the sum. So which is, I have written in 2 lines of code inside that. So you can see like how exactly it is being called. So it's a, you just need to call it as a def and then name of the function, and then you have to specify the column name. Once you specify the column name, it means on that column whatever function, suppose you wanted to do the sum and then divide by 2. So this is what I have done. So you have to just while calling this function, you have to just pass a particular column. Okay, so this is how basic steps, you can say, like, which you can assume and you can imagine how exactly it is gonna work. Now when we talk about how exactly AI is being referred, or maybe you can say everywhere why it is being called. Okay, so here you can see, just give me a second. Okay, because I forgot to close WhatsApp actually. Yeah, yeah. So here, how exactly it is being used? Are you able to see my screen? Is there any problem? No, I don't think so.
Yes, sir. It is visible, sir.
Okay, great.
Visible. You can
So
proceed.
it all starts with the decision making and business strategy. Now, so before digitization, when I talk about before digitization, means you can talk about 90s, or before 90s, means in 1970, you can say, where people used to maintain a lot of ledgers, documents, and they used to analyze everything manually. Okay, and then after that, post digital adoption, you can say, when BI tools came into the market, you can say in 90s. Okay, there are multiple reporting tool are available at that time. Means these were the tool, means which generally all the banks or maybe different people are gonna be using this. Now after that, when internet came into the picture, you can see in the era of 1995 or 1993, you can say this. So this is what happened when artificial intelligence came to the picture. Now if you can go historically, the business strategy and decisions were always
Praveen, sir, we are getting some break in your voice, sir.
okay.
Uh,
Still you are getting some break in my voice.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, I don't think so.
Yeah, now it is okay, sir. Now it is okay.
Now
When you
it is
are
okay.
explaining, yeah, when you are explaining, I think you are moving away from the mouth.
Might be.
Yeah, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry for that. Now, so historically, when I was talking about business strategies and decisions were taking, so at that time, everything is being done through the experience and maybe through the heuristic thing. Okay, and at that time you were not able to analyze so many things. Now, when it comes to the current situation, means as the digitalization has been done, or maybe it is in the coming, or maybe it is in the phase like where it is being just booming. Okay, and maybe you can say it is just arrived, so that data was readily available, and natural new field like BI, as business intelligence, which was, as I said, like it was just born at that time. And then with the advent of that, you can say, advent of time, computing and storage capabilities scaled to a new height. So did the volume, and soon data driven techniques matured from BI to AI. So this is what happened exactly from starting to end. Okay, from starting to end, it's not end actually, it is still in the progress only. Okay, now, like, how will you define data science? Okay, means I always keep this slide, this is the one of my favorite slide, where generally what I used to tell people, like, if you have knowledge on maths and if you have knowledge on business, somewhat knowledge on business, somewhat knowledge on math, then please do something by your own, so that you will get better in data science, or problems, or maybe data science, whatever problem comes to you, any problem which comes in this field, you will be able to easily do the entire thing. So you have three things, you have to have three things in your mind. First is math, business and technology. So if you are very good in math, then you have to have a very good in business as well. Why I'm saying business? See, even though if you are knowing in math very well, if you don't have a knowledge on business, then how will you apply anything on it? Means how do you know, come to know, like, means what exactly my problem is, where exactly my problem is, how exactly I need to give a solution. So you need to have a business. Now, why I'm saying about technology, because if you have math skill and if you have business skills, let's say you both, means you guys are having two things, math and business, then how you are going to code if you don't know technology? So these three skills are mandatory, and these three skills are must, you can say, which you need to, if suppose you wanted to become a data scientist, or maybe you wanted to do some sort of project in data science, then you have to have these three skills in your hand. Okay, now as I mentioned here, just a second, let me minimize this. Okay, now these things, like as I said, math, why do we need? Because you know some sort of statistics, because statistics is mandatory. I will walk you through the statistic, what basic statistic is being used in solving the problem, and then what exactly the business domain knowledge of the system. So domain knowledge also I am gonna cover, but I am gonna cover you with my banking business knowledge, banking knowledge, you can say. And then technology, as I am talking about here, I will totally give you entire thing on Python. Even though when I will give you a walkthrough on case study, real-time case study, I will show you the code which I have written in Python. Okay, so that you can get visual, you can get easily visualize things, how exactly it's being done, where exactly math is being used, where exactly the business comes in the picture, where exactly the technology is being used. Okay, now, so basic idea is like this. Now, so if you will closely look data science, then data science has multiple things. So as I said, like three things. So here statistic, you can come as make it as a math. Now subject expertise, substantive expertise, when you, then it's the domain knowledge, and hacking and coding. That means you have to have a coding skills. Now why I'm saying like marketing thing or maybe expertise things, that means domain knowledge, means you need to ask yourself a good question. Okay, and then understand customers. You need to understand customers. Now you have to define metrics. You are able to, you have to visualize how exactly I can solve my problem, or maybe how exactly I can understand my problems. So there only you need your domain expertise. Now, when it comes to statistics, it's nothing more than just a statistical package. Statistical package, I mean to say, it's the mean, median, mode, binomial distribution, normal distribution. You need to have these kind of knowledge. Okay, and coding, as I said, like it's a Python, SQL, means. But yeah, even if you are quite aware about Python and you are very good in data and data engineering part, then you are, that is enough for you to do the things. Okay, so don't worry about it. Now scripting language, you can say, in scripting language, means somewhere it is being used. Actually, if your data is in server, then how you will bring it down to the local system, or maybe if that data is available in a very huge amount, you can say, means like it's a very big, then how you guys are going to split it, and maybe you wanted to get some useful information from it, then how you are going to do, maybe some scripting language is being used there. I'm not going to talk in my entire session about the scripting language. Okay, just I'm making you guys aware about what all things are being used here. Now let us have a closer look, and means like let's have a look how exactly your all the term which is being means like means frequently used, and how exactly it is being correlated, and where exactly it is being utilized, or maybe it is being used. So you can say here, the data science is an entire world where data wrangling can be done, data plumbing can be done, data visualization can be done, data engineering can be done. Now, your artificial intelligence is a big umbrella. Okay, under that umbrella, machine learning techniques comes, deep learning techniques comes. Okay, now, so you can say like there are several interlinked, and similar names that arise in a data science when you talk about that. But means there are a lot of confusions, and there are a lot of means like people are having a lot of things, sir. What exactly the difference between the data science, data analytics? What exactly the things which data scientist people do? What exactly the things which data analyst people do? There are a lot of things, but I must say you have to have a good knowledge on data, and if you are very good in machine learning techniques, and if you are very good in Python, then you can solve any problem which comes in data science world. Okay, so here I'm just talking about few terms that surface while exploring the field of data science and machine learning. Are they, like you might have means have heard about NLP, decision science, neural network, deep learning, data mining. These are all into the one umbrella, you can say. Okay, so yeah, I'll just wanted you to tell. I will walk you through data visualization, data engineering, how exactly it is being done. Okay, now what is data science, AI, ML, and DL? How exactly it is being used, and how exactly it is being defined? Now, when artificial intelligence, when you talk about artificial intelligence, a branch of computer science that deals with providing intelligence to machine artificially. Hence the name, they could be simple rule-based system, knowledge-driven database. So I'm assuming like everybody is quite aware about artificial intelligence. Now, as I said in the previous slide, machine learning is just a subfield within that AI, which deals nothing but with making machine intelligent. Okay, so making machine intelligence by what? By doing coding. Means you are just writing a code, or maybe you are just writing a one line of sorry, not to say one line of code, but maybe you can say easily 1,000 lines of code you are writing and making machine a more intelligent. Okay, and then when you talk about deep learning, it's the kind of subfield which is subfield of machine learning, which exactly deals with the making machine intelligent, as machine learning does that. And it also concern more about some algorithm. Okay, maybe you can say like it's the kind of replica of our brain. Okay, how exactly our brain works, same way that even deep learning algorithms work as here. Now, when you talk about data science, which is quite a bit apart, I have kept it apart from these three things. It deals with the entire journey of extracting, cleaning, transforming, visualizing, and doing data mining and developing some sort of AI ML product from the data. AI ML product, that artificial intelligence or machine learning products from the data. Now, so yeah, let us move to some sort of toolbox which we people are using it in industry. We people are using even in academic. You guys are quite much more familiar in R. Okay, I'm assuming that, and even you guys are pretty much familiar with Excel. Okay, in here means like in our you can say like industry world, you can say here we are dealing with SAS, here we are dealing with Python, here we are dealing with R as well, Excel pretty much. Now I don't know how many of you are aware about you can do your linear regression model, logistic regression model in Excel as well. I don't know whether you guys have tried or not, but I'm just making you aware about this also, because they are quite advanced now. So even Excel is very good tool, you can say. Like if you know Excel, you can do anything with the data. But means like data has to be in some limited, in limited quantity, you can say. Like means it's not like means you can explore the things in Excel with you have let's say you have 20 GB, 10 GB of data. Then you can't do anything with Excel because it won't work. Now, so people keep on asking always whenever I take session on different industries, they keep on asking, sir, which one is better, R or Python? So I never said like which one is better. I'm here also, I'm not gonna say like which one is better, but yeah, I'm just telling you Python is being used widely in industry. Okay, so when I say industry, so that means because everything has to be productionized, that everything has to be in you know productionized as well as in live. Live means the application is running live, data comes in a live, you can say. So means people generally are quite, because web-based logic you need to develop somewhere, you need to develop web-based logic, then you have to have some sort of framework where we can develop. So Python, which means is being used there also. So web-based logic, if you wanted to define, you can use Python. If you wanted to do a sort of means data wrangling or maybe data massaging, if Python is being used there. Wanted to develop some sort of AI ML tool, means algorithm or maybe tool, you can say, that Python is being used. So similarly in SAS, the multiple things is being done. So even in banking, you means like, I don't know whether you guys are quite aware. In means you can say in entire banking, SAS is being widely used. Means it's the most accepted analytical tool, I can say. Okay. Now let us move on to the remaining module, or maybe you can say hands-on exercise will be means anyway, as I said, like everything which hands-on we are going to do, that has been done in Python, and we are going to do in Python only. Now, data scientist and analyst. So people asked, what is the difference between data scientist and analyst? So here you can see analyst is nothing but when you deal with business administration, maybe you can say the BA kind of thing. Okay, or maybe you are just dealing with exploratory data analysis, means you are doing some EDA part, means you are applying, you are just removing missing values, you are handling lot many data coming into the one source, and now you got a job, like you have to clean it, you have to place it in one particular file, or maybe you have to, means you have to remove all missing values, you have to see if there is any, means like if there is possibility there is some missing columns, or maybe column name is different, or maybe you can say like data is not in a suitable format. Those all stuff is being done here in the analysis. When you are a data scientist, then what exactly you need to do? You have to perform EDA, you have to build a machine learning algorithm, either advanced algorithm. Okay, you have to do data product engineering as well. Okay, I will, as I said, like I will give you entire thing what is being used in data science. Okay, so that is why I'm saying, like from the beginning, my 2-3 case study which I'm gonna show you in later part, that is a crucial part. Crucial means like those are the real-time case study which is being used in a bank. Okay, how exactly the problem comes to you, what exactly the solution behind it, how exactly you need to have your thought process while getting some problem, because problem is not like, it is not coming in 10 lines or 15 lines. Problem is of one line. I will show you my problems, whatever the problem or maybe whatever the assignment I am gonna give you, it is of only one line. Okay, now from one line you need to derive yourself what exactly the problem is. Okay, once you derive that problem, what exactly the problem, what are the cause which gives this problem, maybe what are the factors, you need to find out what all the factors which gives this problem. Now in which factor you have to apply your brain, or maybe you have to apply your this entire exercise like data science exercise, then then only you will resolve that problem. So it's a, you, as I said in the beginning, it's a big thing. It's not like one means like you just get a problem and then if you will write 10 to 15 lines of code, you will get solution. It's not always the case. Okay, there may be a case, might be, but I must say like that is not always the case. Now, let us quickly give you a walkthrough about what all the libraries and how exactly it is being evolved. So, as I said, Python is a highly popular and open source and general purpose programming language. And as I said, why it is being mostly used, like because it has extensive product support. Okay, and even in the case of deep learning, this is the preferred choice, you can say. And I have used like in many places, means even in deep learning sort of thing, while we were doing some exercise, even we have used, like people used to prefer this. Okay, even in CUDA kind of thing, CUDA programming, or maybe everything, means wherever possible, like I have seen like people are quite familiar with Python. Okay, now There are some packages. I'm just giving you some brief show. Like there are popular packages. There are multiple packages, but I'm just giving you some brief about popular packages: Pandas, NumPy, Matplot, SciPy, Stats Model, Scikit-learn. So how exactly it is being arrived from? Means like from the year you can say like means in numeric. When numeric was there, it's in 1995 when they have come up with numerical Python, means where you do some multidimensional array logic and do some sort of calculation in math, okay, using numeric library, you can say. Now in 2001 they are come up with this scipy where means you can do optimization, linear algebra calculation, or maybe you wanted to do some sort of Fourier transformation, then you can use scipy. Now then later on the stage in 2003 they come up with matplotlib, which is means I will show you, even I am using that matplotlib to show you some sort of visualization. It's a very well known library for plotting, for 2D plotting you can say, and it's a high quality figure you can say. Okay, now now the successor which I said like NumPy, which I have showed in the very beginning slide, like NumPy, where means like you have array, matrices, mathematical functions, and everything can be done through this NumPy library. Means where you will get some sort of modification on array, or maybe you wanted to do some sort of calculation on the array, then NumPy library is sufficient for you to do that. Now then Pandas comes in 2009, where means like it's a means the where data structure and operation for you wanted to manipulate some numerical table, or maybe you wanted to apply some time series on it, then pandas is being used. So you will see wherever I will start my coding, you will see always like pandas is being called, and library panda is being imported and numpy is being imported. And if I'm gonna show you some sort of visualization, then you will I will assure you like I will always use matplotlib. Okay, now these are the library which you must have heard about it, or maybe these kind of the buzzword which is being used currently, you know, like TensorFlow, which is nothing but an open source software library for data flow programming across a range of tasks, you can say. And this many more machine learning application is being built on this. Okay, and you know, as I said, like in neural network and everything means TensorFlow has a huge support on. Okay, now when you talk about Keras, it's also open source neural network library, which is, as I said, it is also written in Python. That is why I used to say like Python is why it is so much important, and it is capable of running on the top of TensorFlow. You can say a Microsoft Cognitive Toolkit, Piano, or MaxNet. It was developed with the focus of enabling fast experimentation. Okay, and people used to do this a lot. Means these two libraries are being used by while you are doing some sort of neural network application, building some neural network application, or maybe you are trying to build some sort of toolkit, which is cognitive toolkit, or maybe something like that. Okay. Now let us focus on data manipulation engineering, how data visualization is being used, what exactly in data visualization comes, machine learning methodology, exploratory data analysis, and these are the things which I'm gonna show you. Now, so data manipulation and engineering is it's the most elementary data manipulation exercise where you have to read CSV from your local system. Let's say you have to read CSV from your local system. Okay, now once you read that CSV from your local system, you need to know like how many rows are available in that CSV, what is the length of that means like what is whatever you called in data frame, breadth of the data, or maybe you wanted to visualize like what exactly the header of the data, maybe top 5 column, top 5 rows, or maybe bottom 5 rows. Okay, now you have, if you wanted to remove some sort of column and you wanted to create another frame, then you must have means you need to aware about CRUD operation. That CRUD operation is nothing but when you wanted to create new columns, new data frames, that a CR is being used. Now you wanted to update on the column, or you wanted to do some sort of filtering on that, then it is an update. Okay, now delete, you wanted to delete. Now let's come into data engineering part, where here I will just show you a brief about that, but later in the slide I will show you how is the data engineering is being done. So transform data, string manipulation, data rollup, like group by I will show you group by also how exactly it is being used. Merge, join, pivot, concat. These are the stuff which is being used while you are dealing with data engineering. Now, as I said, data visualization. So you can see here scatter plot, bar chart, line chart, histogram, box plot, pie chart, group bar chart. These are the means you can say like these are the chart which is self-explanatory. If see, nobody is interested in your context. Nobody is interested in your data. Okay, they don't want to see their figure, or maybe they don't want to see your numerical values. See, I'm having some data. Now I wanted to represent that to, I wanted to show my data to my higher management people, or maybe you can say like my manager, or maybe you can say like those who are, running company, running organization. If you will go and you will show them like, sir, these are the data and I can see here, sir, these values are getting increased and something like, he will not able to understand. He will say, why are you showing me this? I'm not getting any sort of insight from it. So that is why data visualization is very important. So if you will show them bar chart, like, sir, you can see like means that this particular product is being highly used among the customer. You can show, sir, our organization growth is not constant nowadays, or maybe it is fluctuation in, having some sort of fluctuation. Maybe you can show to the higher management people, or maybe you can show to the CEO like, our this particular line of business is not performing well. Okay, so maybe you can show some sort of chart where you are telling about like, our IT is booming, our IT is doing some good stuff, but our other manufacturing things are not performing well. Our this particular unit, maybe mm, you can say like motor part unit is not performing well. So you have to visualize that. Means you have to show the pie chart kind of thing so that he will be able to understand that. Now box plot, which I have mentioned here, box plot. Suppose you wanted to know outliers present in your data. So how exactly you will know? So you just need to perform box plot, then you will come to know like what exactly the outliers, if it is there or not. Okay, what is my median, where it is being lied, and what exactly my 25th percentile, 25th or 75th percentile, where exactly it is being used. Okay, so this is where means like, your charts, your visualization techniques are being used. Means like, I must say, whenever you do something, you always try to visualize it. Okay, you try to plot it. Once you try to plot it, once you will get plot, you will get better in the understanding of your data. Okay, now as I said, data visualization toolkit. Okay, so in the beginning, you can say like, I have mentioned like matplotlib, which is being used for the means like for 2D plot. Means like, even though if you are going to plot pie chart, or maybe you wanted to plot bar chart and histogram something, you just need to import the library called as matplot, and then you can also call it as a Seaborn. It's another library. Okay, and Seaborn is built on the top of matplotlib. You can say, means it's a base is still matplotlib. Now, some of the useful command which I am mentioning here. So if you have any doubt, you just open a Python. I am not sure like how many of you are having a Python or no, means in your system. If you are not having that Python, please let me know at the end of my this entire session, so that I will tell you from where exactly you need to download, and how exactly you need to perform few things there. So even if you will just write plt.plot, it will create a plot object. I'm just showing you the basic step and how exactly these commands are being used. Okay, so if you wanted to create some plot, then you have to create a plot object. Then you have to call it as a, you have to specify x and y axis, which is x label and y label. Then you have to give some sort of title to plot object, which means in the beginning you have mentioned. Now if you wanted to show or display the plot, then you have to just call it dot show. So these are the four, you can say, commands which is being used for all the plots. Okay, if you wanted to do some tweak, that is a different thing, but yeah, these four things is always being used in your any plot. Now let us talk about machine learning methodology, exploratory data analysis, and feature engineering. So yeah, machine learning methodology. What you actually, how exactly you start with the problem? Okay, first you always try to identify the problem, where you are defining the problem statement and the outcome expected. Okay, so you just wanted to define, you are just trying to identify the problem. Okay, now after that, in that problem, what all necessary data is being going to be used. So you, what you will use, maybe data is present in one of the server here, and maybe that is in some other server. Maybe data is quite like you want to gather all, you want to combine all three data which is placed in different location, or maybe you can say like in three separate files. Then you have to collect it at one place, and then you have to use it. So that is why I must, means I have mentioned like gather data. So identify, collect and prepare data available for the use case. Okay, now you have to perform EDA and you have to build features. So now perform EDA means you need to perform some sort of exploratory data analysis, which I have already mentioned, like data visualization. You need to identify missing values and everything, which I will show you in the later part. Now explore, you need to explore, analyze and study the length and the depth of the data. Depth of the data, what, how your data is, means like how many rows are there, how many columns are there, if there are multiple rows, like is there any means rows is being repeated or not, if there are multiple columns which are actually not, you can say like not necessary to carry forward, so you can drop those columns as well. So I will show you those part also, how and when we have to drop that. Okay, now then it comes to the building machine learning models, where you will train and develop machine learning, okay, models for your use case. And then at the end you have to productionize your entire solution. Now as I said, I will talk you more about exploratory data analysis. So here you can see exploratory data analysis is the process of studying data by leveraging various statistical and visualization techniques. So I have already showed you visualization technique. Now it's time to show you a statistical. So wait for a while. I will show you statistics as well. Okay. Now there are multiple things which you need to perform before doing, means while doing exploratory and data analysis. So data cleaning. So you need to get rid of data quality issue, because there are many things, like there are rows and columns which are not well formatted. Maybe you can say like if they are, those rows or columns are wrongly named, there are multiple missing values are present. Maybe you have duplicate rows which are quite means present, then you have to remove those, otherwise your data is of no use, you can say. Or if you will use that data without any sort of applying data cleaning activity, then your model may give you better accuracy, but that is of no use. Or maybe your model may behave, means you can say like, means it is not going to give you a good accuracy at all. So now when you talk about data cleaning, so these are the things always keep in mind, like what all issues are you are going to face in data cleaning. Now you have to you have to deal with missing value. Now how you are going to treat that missing value? No, so you have to identify values which are missing. First of all, you need to identify values, means like you need to go through each columns and you need to see how many missing values are present in this column. Okay, if there is a missing value, then how I'm gonna deal with that missing value? Maybe I need to apply a median, maybe I need to fill that missing value with the mode, maybe means anything. Okay, so now delete row, I'm saying delete rows if the number of missing values is insignificant. Okay, so suppose number of missing values are there, but that is not in that much, means that hardly 2-3 rows you can say, or maybe you can say like there are very few missing values present in the data. Then you simply, because in 2-3 rows nothing is going to, suppose you have 2-3 thousands of rows in your data, means I'm saying in Excel, suppose you have 2-3 thousands of rows. Now deleting 2 rows or 3 rows will not impact that much. Okay, and if the number of missing values are quite significant in number, okay, suppose in one column you are able to see like there are multiple missing values. Suppose out of 2000 rows, in one column you have more than 1500 missing values. Let's say more than 1500 missing values, and just you have 500 values. Then in that case, you don't have to apply your brain on that. In that case, you have to drop that column. It's the means strictly I'm saying you have to drop that column because it is of no use. Because even though how you are going to fill that missing value, but with the mean, but mean is very less. Mean you will get like with 500 column with 500 rows, what will you get? You won't get anything. Median, that is also not possible. Mode, as I said, like it's not at all. So instead of creating a lot of issues in the latter phase, better to drop those columns here. Now, fill partial as I said, like fill partial missing values using mean, mode, median, or maybe based on your domain knowledge. Now, here some other operation which I listed here, you have to perform before during data cleaning. Okay, during you can say EDA. Now, filtering data. So anyway, means before that I'll go to filtering data. Means I will just talk about the standardizing the existing value, fix the invalid value. You need to look into means whether we have any invalid values or not. That means like if there is there are means like values which is not being standardized, then you have to make it in a proper standard. Okay, like it happens like you while you are dealing with the data, you will come to know easily like this is not exactly in a proper format, so we need to standardize, make it in a proper format. Now when it comes to the filtering data, now you have to see deduplicate data. So you have to remove identical rows, okay, or remove rows where columns are identical. Okay, and this you have to do that. Now you have to apply filter on the rows or for any sort of segment. Suppose you have entire Excel, but you don't need entire Excel, or maybe you for your case study you just need out of 12 columns you just need 8 columns. So why do you carry forward all the 12 columns unnecessary? You are making complex things to your model. Okay, so it's better in EDA part you remove all these things, you get rid of all those things. Why I'm saying this, so that is why this EDA part is very important, because 70% of our time is being used in EDA. Even when I'm developing any model in organization, we used to give lot of time while performing EDA. Okay, we always make sure our data is in very good format, or our data is in such a format so that our model will give the better accuracy, or maybe model will perform perfectly. So that is why, and always for you guys keep in mind, if your data is good, there are 99% probability your model will be also good. But if there is a problem in your data, I must assure you, you will hardly get your better accuracy. Okay, even though if you will get better accuracy, but that will not make you much sense on it. Okay, so these things comes from the experience. So that is why we are sharing our experience. Okay, now you have to filter column as well, or maybe rows as well, which is not necessary, or maybe I means like you need to aggregate data. So you need to perform some sort of group by, maybe you have some two different files, and two different files having same IDs. Same IDs means like maybe customer ID, you can say like customer ID is present in one file and same customer ID is in another file, but that means two different files are there of customers. Suppose you are the customer, but your two different files are maintained by the bank. So now bank wanted to merge both two files, then it is going to be merged using what? It is going to be merged using your customer ID. Okay, and if there are something like means like you wanted to group by, means like you have account number. Let's say you have account number, and in your account, you can say in your account multiple things are being means like there is multiple credit card is being issued to you, or maybe you can say like from your account like multiple loans are being used. Then what will you do? You will group by using what? Using your account ID. Okay, so that means bank people will come to know the conclusion like this particular ID or maybe this particular customer has multiple accounts, maybe multiple, what is that, multiple cards, maybe multiple loans. Okay, then based on that they can analyze anything. Now, so exploratory data analysis, as I said, like means it is a very crucial part. Now here you need to identify type of variables. So here I have mentioned like there are generally two types of variables: categorical variables and numerical variables. In category variables, you can say like there is still under that there are two another segmentation. So two another segmentation is the ordered and unordered. Ordered means where suppose there is some sequence. Okay, some sequence means you can say like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. These are the week. So there is a ordered. Now, if you have a score, high, average, low, this is also one sort of order where you will also know like high is having very good score and like low is having very bad score. You can say. Now, unordered when I am talking about IT, sales, some sort of job sector, that is not at all related. Okay. Now, account type, saving, current, salary, these are also three different things. Okay, that is also not at all related. So you can say that is unordered. Okay. Now numerical, rest all whatever you will get, even your salary, maybe your amount of loan or anything, all comes in a numerical. Now you need to perform three different type of analysis always in EDA. So these are univariate analysis, bivariate analysis, multivariate analysis. When you talk about univariate analysis, it is the process of exploring a single variable or attribute at a time. Okay, so when you wanted to perform any sort of insight from one attribute, then it is called as univariate. And means I must say, if you start working on these data science project, always start with univariate analysis. Okay, because by doing univariate analysis, you will get some insight about this particular attribute, about wherever you are applying this. So one attribute you have applied something, then you will easily come to know like what exactly this attribute is, how exactly the behavior of this attribute, whether this attribute is uniformly distributed, whether an attribute has some sort of outlier or whatever. You will easily come to know when you will perform some univariate analysis on that attribute. Now, after that, if you wanted to get some relationship, you wanted to build, or maybe you wanted to determine some relationship between two variables, okay, then you have to perform bivariate analysis. Okay, and these must be in a sequence. Please don't mess up with these things. Always make some sequence, always make some flow. So first you need to perform univariate analysis, then you have to perform bivariate analysis. Okay, then once you have done that, then you have to perform multivariate analysis. Multivariate analysis when you have to perform 2-3 variables at a time, at once, you can say. Okay, now for performing this, for performing univariate, you must have where exactly which plot I am going to use. Sir, have you, it means you have already showed me these many plots, but how do I know like where exactly in which attribute I need to perform which plot, I need to visualize through which plot. So that is why we have come up with this particular slide where we are still trying to tell you how exactly you need to perform what plot where exactly. Okay, now categorical attribute, when the attribute is of category, then you have to perform, you have to you have to visualize through bar chart or through bar chart, pie chart through, why I'm saying pie chart, because if you wanted to get some sort of percentage value of a particular variable, you can say, because I am here talking about what univariate analysis. Univariate analysis means only one attribute is there. In one attribute, if in your, you can see in your miss attribute, you are always saying some sort of percentage is being defined, or maybe all the values are in percentage, then you can develop pie chart here. Okay, now the number of values of the specified variables are in number, then you just need to define bar chart, so that you will come to know like how exactly my this variable or maybe this attribute is behaving. Now, when it comes to the numeric attribute, then you have to use box plot and histogram as a visualization technique. Now, while using box plot, you will always make sure what all things you will get from box plot. Now, from box plot, you will get minimum, you will get maximum, you will get mean, median, range, quantile. As I showed you in the figure, box plot, that is why I showed you like mean, median, and quantile. So quantile nothing but a set of cut points that divide a set of data into groups containing equal number of values. Okay, as I said, like 25th quantile, 75th quantile, something like that. So you have to think in that way. Now, average or sum of values divided by the number of population, that is what mean. So you means in the beginning you might have asked, like means you might have a thought came into your mind, sir, what all statistic is being used. So these are the statistics which is frequently used, okay, in all the problems, you can say. And while visualizing, you have, while doing some sort of EDA also, you need these. Now, for histogram, what all things you can get, you can get variance. Okay, variance is nothing but a measure of data dispersion, how your data is being dispersed. Okay, so you wanted to know, then you have to plot, you have to use variation technique as an histogram. You can see from histogram. Now, standard variable, which is nothing but the square root of variance, and then coefficient of deviation, which is nothing but, you can say, like whatever the data dispersion you have got from variance, you can divide it by mean. Okay, you will get coefficient of deviation. Now, you wanted to know skewness, a measure of symmetry or asymmetry in the distribution of data. Okay, now these are the things which you always need to, means like, keep in mind while performing any univariate analysis, or you are wanted to do some visualization technique for your data. So these things please keep in mind, because this is, I can say, this is the curator slide which we have built it. Now, for doing bivariate analysis, you can see here, if your two attributes are numerical, okay, if two attributes are numerical, then that is a scatter plot. You have to do this analysis through scatter plot. So where once you will do scatter plot, now it, what exactly it does, it will define the correlation between the two numerical variables. Now you can see in the left side, the chart, the plot, where you can see satisfaction level is there, last evaluation weather. So you are just defining the correlation between those two numerical variables, how exactly it is used. Okay, when you have to perform some bivariate analysis on numerical and categorical attribute, okay, then always try to do with bar chart. As I said, like salary, low, medium, high in the previous slide, you just wanted to know like average satisfaction level across salary range. So everybody knows, like means like if your salary is high, like you are highly satisfied. So yeah, means as usual you can see here, but this is the combination of numerical and category. Now, when it comes to the categorical attribute, then you have to use a stacked bar chart. Now the stacked bar chart or column chart compare the percentage that each category from one attribute contribute to a total score category of the second variable. Now here I have showed you one category is your sales, accounting, HR, means like it's a different type of sales, you can say, or maybe you can say salary distribution among sales. Now, sales, accounting, HR, these are the different fields. Now, in these fields, how are the people is being distributed? People is being means their salary is being distributed. So in sales, you can say very low quality of say means like salary is given. Now, if you will see which one graph is showing high is most, yeah. So in case of management, you can see the high plot is more. Okay, so in this way, you just by looking at the diagram, you can easily identify. Now, R&D kind of thing, you can say like R&D and HR people used to get medium range salary. Okay, this is how you will identify things from your plots. Now, feature engineering, when we talk about feature engineering, let's say feature engineering is the process of leveraging domain expertise to create features that help machine learning algorithm work better. The process is quite difficult and expensive. Okay, as I said, like 70-80% is work is being done here only. Okay, so it's a kind of where is the science of extracting more information from existing data. Suppose you have data, but there are more things which you can extract from the data which is already in your hand. In that case, you are always thinking feature engineering, and you have to come up with some new logic, you can say. Okay, from where you can get something more. Because see, let's say I have given here one very good example. You can say I have date and total sales. Now I want to get some insight from this particular data. Are you, if I will show you this data, will you be able to say like what exactly I can find out from here? No. Why? Because I'm here just showing you hardly 8 to 10 rows. Maybe you can, from looking at 8 to 10 rows, you can easily say, sir, I can tell you. But that is not always the case. So if I will just get the weekday, okay, instead of date, let's keep date as well, but I can get that weekday, maybe in which date this particular sales has happened. So you can see Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, all the weekdays I am getting. Now, by looking only by adding this column, you are able to identify things. You are able to get insight. How? You can see Sunday you are getting more sales. Okay, you can see Saturday, then after Saturday you are getting more sales. Okay, on a weekdays, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you are not getting that much sales. So this is how you can say you get better insight by just adding one column. So that is why I'm saying like it is very crucial step. Okay. Now let's say another example. I'm just means like trying to give you one more example. How exactly you wanted to derive some variable. Now let's talk about age. Age in years is a ratio attribute, but we can convert it into ordinal type. How exactly we can convert into ordinal type? By binding. Let's make it bucket. Okay, I'm just trying to say if the age is less than 14, then those people belongs to kids. If age is between 14 to 20, teenagers, young adult and adults. I'm just defining buckets. Now based on that, what I have done from numeric attribute, I have just converted it into ordinal type attribute. Okay, or maybe you can say that I have just defined the category. Now if you I wanted to get some insight, I can simply say, so maybe teenagers are like those who are not getting salary. Okay, maybe you can say young adults people are getting more home loans, or maybe those people are getting means credit card is being used by them quite high. Okay, and if you will see adults greater than 29, you can say like means these adults are just means they have home loans, or maybe they have more than two kids, or maybe more than one kid. Maybe any insight you can define from this. Okay, and now when you talk about another example, let's have two variable which you are quite aware about. I'm pretty much sure, like weight, height, which has high correlation, but you always try to derive a new metric which is known as BMI. Okay, once BMI is there, which we can easily categorize the fitness of a person. Based on the BMI, you will easily categorize whether person is fit or not. Okay, weight and height will not do anything here, but BMI will do, which will you can derive from weight and height. Okay, and there are multiple techniques. I can say like pairwise differences, log transformation, pairwise product, reducing noise in category level, and there are multiple things and techniques are there. Okay, but I just wanted to give you some brief so that you will able to visualize how exactly data engineering, feature engineering is being done now. So guys, if you want to raise any question right now, then please let me know. Otherwise, I can take questions at the end of the session. So Rajesh, how do you want, like, Rajesh, are you there? Okay. So guys, means like
Rajesh sir is not. One second.
okay.
Yes, sir, he is there, but
So
he
Dinesh sir, means like how exactly people want, like they want to take means wanted to ask question in between, or they want in the end.
if anybody wants to ask any question, they can raise the hand or they can post in the chat box. Sir.
Please ask your questions now.
Rajesh sir is available, sir. Now.
Yeah. So Rajesh, what I'm saying like means if people have some questions, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll keep on going, and then maybe at the end I will take questions. But means it's better because it's almost 1 hour. Means I can continuously speaking, so maybe people get some sort of bored. I don't know. So if they have some question, please let me know.
Yeah, please ask your
Guys, please
questions
raise
now.
your hand. I can see here, and sir Dinesh sir will make you guys unmute and you can speak.
Or you can post in chat box also, sir. If anybody is having the questions, they
Okay.
can post the things in the chat box so that it will be explained by you, sir.
So guys, if you have any question, please raise your hand here so that we can unmute you and you can ask.
This
Nagul Mira yes sir is wanted to ask a question. Can you unmute him?
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon,
Nagul Mira,
sir.
sir, you are unmuted, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Sir, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Sir, this is Nagul Mehra from St. Mary's English Engineering College, sir.
Oh, hello, sir.
Sir, which one is the best programming language for this data science, sir?
I didn't get you. Can you come back again?
Okay.
No. Can you please
Hello?
recall? Yeah, please tell me what exactly you have asked.
Which one of the best programming language for this data science, sir?
Oh, so as I said, like it's a quite controversial question, so I can't comment on it. But I must say, like because Python is being widely used, so better to go on with the Python. And if you are familiar with
Why
R, then there is no issue.
generally,
my students ask this question, sir.
they are used very much in the industry and also in the academic institutions of data science. And R is much for people who are familiar with statistics, because R is very cryptic. And so Python is very cryptic too, but Python that way, it's very easy. So since it has a lot of community support, that is the people of different companies support Python a lot, and every day the new things are coming out in Python and new functions are being written in Python. So it's very easy. So that is the reason that we use Python. But if you know R, then also you can use R. And R is a good language.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, next question.
Okay,
please.
thank you, sir. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Anyone, please, can you raise your hand if you want, please?
I just want to tell everybody that this is more of a practical thing. Like if you do it practically, then you will get a good grip on what data science is actually, and you will be able to do it better. There is nothing like the best model, or there is nothing like the best analysis. Every analysis is different, and every analysis is depending on the data scientist. So if a data scientist is analyzing for a credit card risk, then he is analyzing his way of the credit card risk. And every analysis need to take different thing into account. So nothing like the best of the best is there in data science. It is just that the data scientist or the data analyst have to provide his inputs so that it is safe for the particular institution. whether it be a bank or whether it be a telecom industry or whether it be any sort of retail industry or so he has to provide his views on the same and help to grow the business. That is the ultimate intention.
So thank you so much, Rajesh. I guess only these questions have arrived so far. Okay. Now let us move to statistic. I'm not gonna give you entire statistic background, but yeah, I will aware about you like what all basic statistic is being used in data science problem or maybe in ML sort of things. Okay. Now basic, measure of central tendency is what? It's a mean, mode, median. Okay. Measure of variability, which is variance, standard deviation, and range. And the normal distribution is nothing but the symmetric around the mean. Okay. Which you can say like it's a normal distribution. Okay. Now, if normal distribution, another definition when you can say like mean equal to median equal to mode. Okay. Now, bell curve. I don't know how many of you are aware about bell curve, but bell curve, not exactly how exactly means. I don't know. Means like in many researcher, people are using this bell curve for so many things to show something. I don't know. Means you guys are quite aware about it or not, but yeah. So I'll give you one best example in industry where it is being used most frequently. You can see. So suppose you're working in an organization where a team of 10 people are there. Now in 10 people there are multiple people having 4 years of experience, there are multiple people are having 6 years of experience, now there are multiple people are having 2 years of experience. Now with the experience people must have maybe having different um, you can say salary range. Now based on that salary range, how exactly you can give increment to the people so that there will be no partiality. Okay, and everybody would be happy. At that time you have to use bell curve. Okay, so it's a, I can say like this is the best example which I can say and it comes in my mind here. So it's a means how exactly, because you don't want to do some sort of partiality, because you are not leaning towards somebody. Okay, you have to give say almost equal increment, but somebody is having let's say 10 lakh of package and somebody is having in the same position but has 6 lakh of package. How will you give if 10% is going to suppose let's say increment is of 10%, then 10 lakh people will get more increment instead of 6 lakh people. So there you need to use bell curve. Based on that you have to give increment. Now central limit theory is a statistical theory that states that given a sufficiently large sample size from a population within a finite level of variance, you can say, the mean of all sample from the same population will be approximately equal to the mean of population. Okay, so central limit theory, means like by the definition, it's a pretty much clear. Now, all of the sample will follow an approximate normal distribution pattern with all variance being approximately equal to the variance of the population, which is divided by each sample size. Okay, and standard error, if you can see here, standard error defined as the standard deviation of the sampling of a statistic. Okay, now here you can see Z score. I don't know how many of you are quite aware about Z score, but Z score is frequently used in in all the problems, or you can say like means in data science problem. So means as you can say like here sigma, like it is being sigma and mu is being defined. Now Z score is -3, -2, -1, 0, which is nothing but the where you are getting highest peak. Okay, and it is symmetric about both sides. Okay, now probability distribution everybody is quite aware about probability distribution, but I just wanted to give you some brief about random variable. It is the numerical measurement of the outcome of an experiment that can assume different values at random. A random variable can be discrete or continuous. Okay, it can be anything. Now, if it is a categorical random variable, that is gender of a boy, male or female. Numerical random variable assumes any value in an interval, maybe body weight of you. Okay. Now, the probability distribution of a discrete random variable assigns a probability to each possible separate value. Okay, this is where the major difference comes of where exactly probability distribution is being used. Now, each probability falls between the 0 and 1, which everybody knows, and sum of the probability of all possible values will be equal to 1, which you will see means in my one of the module where I am talking about the standard error and error. Okay, so in linear regression only, I will show you how exactly this probability is being used and to get some of error. How exactly error is being uniformly distributed, why that error is uniformly distributed. Okay, in the case of rolling, just giving an example, in the case of rolling a pair die, let's x denote the number of dots, x is a discrete random variable, then there is 6 possibility, 1 2 3 5 6. Now probability of distribution is what? The 1 by 6 for all x. So this is how you can see here how exactly the probability distribution of sum of two 6-sided dice you can show through the picture. You might be thinking like, why sir is showing us this distribution, because this is going to be used some means like in near few, means you can say in coming 2-3 days. Now normal distribution already I talk about that. Now binomial distribution, you can see here the probability is 0.25.5. Now number of heads is either 0 1 or 2. So if their number of heads is 1, then it has a probability is 0.5. Okay, which is means that is why we are saying like it's a binomial distribution. Now uniformly distribution, where means you can see like all the bars are quite equal, so it means you can say like uniformly distributed it is. Okay, yeah, so I will explain here hypothesis testing, but this hypothesis testing is going to be used in model development part, or maybe at the time of model evaluation. Okay, so let me give you proper how exactly you can define this. Okay, it's a statistical hypothesis, which is an assumption about a population parameter. That assumption which you are going to choose may or may not be true. So the goal is to either accept or reject the null hypothesis. Our ultimately goal is this. Now I'm just defining here H0 is null hypothesis, HA is alternate hypothesis. So to do this, you have to perform some steps. Means these are steps just we have met for our sake of understanding. So you can also refer to this. So set up hypothesis. First, you need to set up hypothesis. Either you can take null or alternate. Now set the criteria for the decision. Then compute the random chance of probability, and then take a decision. Now for that, keep in mind you have to perform this. You start by saying that beta 1 is not significant. Okay, let's say beta 1 is not significant. Beta 1 is what? Beta 1 is your null hypothesis, and I'm saying it is not significant. Then that means there is no relationship between x and y. You know y is what and x is what. Okay, y equal to mx plus c, let's say. Okay, now you are saying there is no relationship between x and y. So in order to perform the hypothesis test, we first propose the null hypothesis. Okay, so null hypothesis is that is beta 1 is 0. You already said like beta 1 is not significant. Okay, now I am saying we first propose the null hypothesis that beta 1 is 0, and the alternative hypothesis there thus become beta 1 is not 0. Okay, so here I have mentioned null hypothesis beta 1 is 0 and alternative hypothesis beta 1 is not equal to 0. Now implication of this particular hypothesis is if you fail to reject the null hypothesis, you can see if you fail to reject the null hypothesis, that would mean that beta 1 is 0. Sorry, here you can see. Okay, so because you have taken the hypothesis, null hypothesis, that beta 1 is 0. Now what you are saying, if you fail to reject the null hypothesis, that means beta 1 is 0. Okay, which would simply mean that beta 1 is insignificant. If beta 1 is 0, that means that is not at all used for our model. Okay, so you can say beta 1 is insignificant and of no use in the model. Now, second implication which we can derive it, similarly, if you reject the null hypothesis, earlier you failed to reject the null hypothesis, now you reject the null hypothesis, that means beta 1 is not 0. If beta 1 is not 0 means that 1 is significant and the line fitted is a significant one. Means suppose any line is mx plus c is there and you are defining that line. So that line is having some significance. So this particular test we are gonna use in where? While doing linear regression modeling. Okay, now I just give you a brief here. If the p-value turns out to be less than 0.5, then you can reject the null hypothesis, and that state that beta 1 is significant. Okay, so many of you have learned about this. If p-value is quite less than this, then we have to take that particular attribute, carry forward. Okay, now let us talk about NLP. So Rajesh, are you there? You wanted to describe this? Okay, anyway, if he's not there, then no problem. Now AI, let's give you some more overview. Now, the AI based solution market was valued from 900 US dollar million by end of year 2030. That is what they said. Now you can say they have even projected that it will cross 47 billion in revenue by 2020, which is already happened. Even it is beyond 47 now. And in US, this is the largest market. Okay, and you can say like US is the largest market of AI. Okay, now Asia Pacific is expected to offer the highest growth potential for AI in the next couple of years, as I said. So means like there is a huge growth in this field. Now some of the dominant global players which are already present in the market, I don't know means whether you guys are aware, but I'm pretty much sure like IBM, everybody knows that is also one of the market player, you can say. Okay, and then Sybase is there, Oracle is there, LiqView. I don't know whether you are aware of Liq technology, but they have quite competitor of Tableau. And Microsoft, as usual, means these are the big player for AI. Now they have their all cognitive things present in their sandbox, you can say, and they are one of the virtual box. Now NLP is what? NLP is used to process information from unstructured data. So unstructured data, when I'm talking about unstructured data, it is nothing but your data, the way you chat in your Facebook Messenger, the way you chat in your WhatsApp. So those are all data are unstructured data, and I wanted to process that data to get some insight from it. Okay, then there we generally use NLP. Okay, we do some sort of processing, and that processing is being done using NLP. Okay,
Like we said earlier, that AI is an umbrella, and this umbrella has NLP in it, which natural language processing, speech processing, and text processing, and expert systems. And here there are some name of companies like Actuate, like uh, EasyTel, i2 Technologies, which is again based out of US, Microsoft, and these are some of the companies that do NLP. Uh, NLP means the natural language. So these are important when, for example, a patient goes to a doctor and the doctor is not able to understand the local language. Hmm. At the time, the doctor can be translated the text into English, and he can be then made aware what the problem the patient is facing. So NLP is very important that way. And if you take speech processing, if you take robotics, if you take these are all the fields of AI, and these are all the fields that are developing, and there are different companies who are developing it in a systematic way and slowly by slowly. Yeah, Praveen, please continue.
Yeah, thank you, Rajesh, for further clarification. Yeah, so let us move on to the next. So AI is also plays a crucial role in insurance domain. Now you wanted to do some sort of fraud detection. Okay. Now fraud detection is one of those areas where the insurance industry is investing a large portion of their capital. Okay. Every year the industry loses billions of dollars due to fraud. You know, when people used to say like means this particular insurance is already done. So I want to get some money from it. Okay, they do a lot of fraud. Means this is a very big industry, you can say, and means there are a lot of frauds is gonna happen, and it's a huge. So a lot of manual work is required to verify thousands of record in a daily basis, and whether you need to approve or not. I do remember like one of the examples case study when we were in means I was in Tata Research. So means I have done some sort of case study. One of the case study here where we what exactly, suppose you are taking you got your car as accident and then your car is being damaged. Okay, now you take a picture. Where we have developed some application. You have to just take picture and just send it to the means apply to the application. Okay, immediately you will get your amount, how much amount you are being insured. Okay, so now based on that picture, what it does, it goes to the our database where we generally have a lot of pictures of damaged thing. Okay, so it will match from the portion to portion, like how exactly it is being damaged. So based on that, it is going to approve some amount. So how much amount you can claim based on that. So it's an automated process, you can say. Instead of going walk you through the whatever insurance company, you have to walk down and then you have to show like these are the damage, how much will it cost, means are you going to give me, means how much claim is going to approve, something like that. So that is where means we have used it. Now in automated decision making, you can see here artificial intelligence based technique is expected to expand the scope of assisted and automated decision making of insurance across a variety of functions. This is what I said to you. Okay, now these include identification of market segment to enter or grow customer segmentation, risk selection, advice engine that assist agent, advisor or end customers, claim tracking, and then proactive prevention, loss prevention management also. So you can say like as here I'm mentioning like it's an automated decision system which you can make, or maybe instead of talking to the agent or maybe contacting with the organization, you should directly connect with the available app and you can just send your pictures whatever the damage has happened or maybe whatever the claim you wanted to get. It will automatically approve that amount and then it will relate to your account. Now AI and NLP means being used in healthcare as well, and how exactly it is being, where exactly it is being. So in patient care, the researcher has found that the using AI in patient care can save money and improve patient outcomes. Okay, in a study carried out by Indiana University, physicians who used AI framework to make patient care decisions had patient outcome that were 50% better than the physician, okay, who did not use AI. Look at the capability. Okay, now here the healthcare cost decreased by more than 50%. Okay, when the physician is using AI. So that is where means like you can say like it's a massive field and means everywhere it is being used. Now There is a healthcare firm which uses software that applies a mathematical formula to nurse scheduling. So rather than taking a standard approach to staffing, which involves accessing patient acuity and at the end of shift and guess how much staff is needed, something like no, you don't require that. Everything is being automated. So next, when nurse will come, which nurse will come, when their schedule, okay, when this particular patient requires the nurse, means everything is being done through automatic process, and everything is done in AI only, using AI, you can say. Now you can say reduce cost and time. So rising costs in healthcare in the US is expected to reach 30% of the gross domestic product by 2050, which may be reduced with the use of AI. Okay, so we are going to reduce this. Now with the usage of AI, patient receives correct diagnosis and treatment less than half the time on a first visit, and a lag time 13 to 17 years between research and practicing clinical care. So overall, what I can say by looking this slide, you can say like it's a AI is being highly being used in every domain. I'm just talking about healthcare. Just before this slide, I have talked about insurance domain. So it is being everywhere. It is highly being used, you can say, in almost all sectors. Now, as you know, like you pretty much aware about Apple Siri. Means the iPhone users are pretty much aware about Microsoft Cortana. You know, like means like how exactly these virtual agent is being performing well here. So virtual agents, you can say, that are being used in smartphone nowadays and making the best use of natural language processing technique. Okay, so you know, means like even if in Google now, you can say like you will talk something and you will automatically perform. So it's the best example, you can say like their Alexa and all the Google products. Okay, now means I'm not gonna talk about like what exactly it is doing, but yeah, though you might not have aware about Nuance, that has also rolled out Nina, a Siri rival of sort that will let developer build mobile virtual assistant feature directly into their iOS and Android app through an open source software. That is, it's a open source only. Okay, and rest all are you might have aware about it. And I don't know, means like if you are using SDFC is using their virtual agent called as Ask Eva. Okay, so Eva or Isa, I don't remember exactly the name, but yeah, even in Bank of America, means that they are using their one personal assistant. And now the transaction is being done through that way, using person for this personal assistant. Or maybe you wanted to perform your balance check, you just need to speak in their like from their virtual agent, and you will automatically get how much account balance available in your account. So now, well-known NLP system, you can say like information retrieval and question answering. You're pretty much aware about like Google search, and then IBM Watson, Apple Siri, Wolfram Alpha, Microsoft SharePoint search. These are all based on NLP only, you can say, and means well recognized, well established, you can say. Now, machine translation, it's a Google Translate, Baidu Translate, you know. So even you wanted to translate from one language, suppose you wanted to translate from English to Telugu, then you can use Google Translate. It would I guess it's already being done. Okay, but English to Hindi is already done. There are multiple things which is already being done. Okay, now text mining. So text miner, which we are using in our banking domain, you can say, and Microsoft SQL Server text mining, Autonomy, you can say. These are the text mining tech means like tools which are available in the market and we are using for it. And these text mining techniques, we wanted to process some text and we wanted to do means we wanted to form another text from all the text. You can say like there are bunch of text. Out of that, we just wanted to get some good text out of it, or maybe we wanted to retrieve some information from that text. So it's a kind of text mining, you can say. Now the challenges when we talk in AI and NLP. So common sense versus AI. So common sense versus AI, this is a point that has always been argued, or maybe you can say like wherever we went and means we have delivered our lecture means this is the point always comes in means people's mind like as a major roadblock in implementing AI is based on the various industries, whether artificial intelligence will be able to deliver better than a medical specialist who will make moral decision based on a number of observations that he makes. Yeah, might be, maybe. You cannot say, and even you cannot deny. Okay. Now, experts have always argued that a mix of both these will prove to be most efficient system. Okay, that means you have to develop some. Always, you have to develop some sort of you can say tool or maybe functionality which will always take users input, okay, and users feedback. That is why you must have seen whatever application and whatever the app is coming into the market. I always take or it keeps on taking your feedback, it keeps on taking your input, okay, otherwise it will not learn, it will not going to be become an expert. Okay. Now, experts have always argued that that's already most efficient system. As I said, like mix of both it has to be there. Now, in fact, artificial intelligence based robotic assists doctor today to perform diagnosis to precision surgeries. So that is how means like you can see like by looking into this phrase, you can see like how robot is being used in the market, and that is the practical. Actually, we have learned a lot of blogs. That is then after that only we have written this statement. Okay. Now, when it comes to the technology advancement, so AI still remain in premature stage. Means everybody used to say, and that is what means even we are saying. Even though the idea was brought out many years back in 1950, 1956, 56, then with science still unable to answer how human brains are intelligent, developing a technology for artificial is still a big question mark. Okay, means everybody has same question. I know, I am pretty much aware of because even we used to get the same question. Okay. Anyway, artificial intelligence is based on reasoning, knowledge, planning, learning, communication, perception, and the ability to move and manipulate objects. Okay, so this means why I'm mentioning these things, because how is it you will means do advancement in technology. So this is how means keep always do some sort of reasoning, knowledge, means improve the knowledge, do the some planning, give some proper learning. Okay, so these are the things which you always have to have a think means, and as I mentioned here that these are the challenges which is being faced by in AI nowadays, and even from the last you can say from 2 decades you can say. Now, predicting cost pricing model can include fees for NLP that increase in proportion to the volume of text data that client feeds into the tool. Okay, now client is feeding into the tool, which is also means you can say like it's a kind of fees which they are asking. Now, annual spend on text analytics typically ranges from $20,000 for the most basic program with a couple of users to hundreds of thousands of dollars for a sophisticated implemented used by a large customer inside team. So means like where you can say like it's a cost prediction means which is also one of the challenge which you can say. Now, solution only for a current workflow, the challenge of big data and intelligence. So now the challenge anyway means I wanted you to tell you guys like maybe tomorrow I will take one session in big data. Okay, I will talk about what exactly the big data, how exactly big data is and all. Anyway, the challenge of big data, the volume of information of a big data is vast and is in need for new and efficient AI technique to handle the large volume variety. Yeah, that is where the challenge is. So now, with the limited amount of data and with the limited amount of knowledge, AI will may perform better, maybe. But if we talk about the huge volume of data, then it is a quite a bit challenging task. How will you handle that? Now, people are already did that, no doubt, but still, it's a kind of challenge which we can say in the market right now. Now, taking all the information generated in the right context, and the use of evidence generated may be seen as significant. Yes. Okay. Now, what exactly intelligence is? The approach that computer take towards being smart is that it thinks a lot of options really fast, but stop working when the number of options skyrockets and the number of potential right answer also becomes enormous. So means like here exactly you need to think why we used to say like people are better than machine, or maybe machine are better than people. That is where the entire things are going on. Okay, the AI software must learn to ignore possibilities rather than searching through them. So it will always, if suppose that software has to decide something to ignore, let's say, so to ignore, what it will does, it will again search from the knowledge base and then it will give the answer. Okay, and if at all there in knowledge base you haven't mentioned that particular case where you have to ignore it, or maybe multiple case where you have to know like ignore possibility, then it will do the search, that's it. It will take much time. But in that there, if you will ask something from human, they have that ignore possibility. They can ignore easily, instead of means like within a second you can see. Now in healthcare, the AI software by diagnostician will have such a search problem where they cannot tell the difference between all the right answers to a particular problem. That is what where I'm saying that it's a lack of knowledge base, or maybe lack of building a big knowledge base, you can say. Or maybe means after a certain amount of time, or maybe after some period of time, they will able to do the same stuff using AI software. But yeah, still the challenge is there. Now speech as a solution. So as speech, what people say, speech is not a product. Okay, one thing fit for all means it's not product means you can build once and that is being used everywhere. No, it's not the case. Now, not just speech recognition, speech synthesis, isolation. Okay, now what it is actually is what exactly the speech is. It's a customer or maybe need based solution. Good understanding of the customer is a pain point, everybody knows about that. Involves use of orthogonal clues, not just speech. It requires constant monitoring because it's not the software which you have built on and it will keep on running on the same whatever the knowledge you have given. No, because you need to feed them regularly. Okay, now dialect decision, cultural understanding, personalization need to understand the actual user. Now let's say here I am using it's like here Zoom app. So while I am speaking, or maybe somebody will speak like based on the application, we are easily figure it out who is speaking. It's not based on the speech. It's just checking which person mic, whose mic is quite enabled or who is speaking right now. That is why it is keep pop-up is coming up and this Praveen is speaking or maybe Rajesh is speaking. Okay. So I must say like people have must means like they have just a bit miscommunication, or maybe there are a lot of ambiguity, means they used to think like speech as a solution. How exactly it is solution? Now let me discuss about some of the applications. So speech analytics is the process of analyzing recorded calls to gather information about the structure to customer interaction and exposure information hidden in customer contact center. Okay, so though today I don't have much time to talk about these things, because even I have built one of the application which is based on speech only, where means like what we are doing is we are in customer center. Generally, suppose you got a call from HSBC or maybe you got a call from HDFC Bank. Now you are not satisfied. Okay, you are talking to customer care and you are expressing your views. Now based on your emotions, or maybe based on your feeling, or based on your chat, Means we can figure it out whether this particular customer is satisfied or not satisfied. If you're quite aggressive, you're quite sad about that, then you may use those kind of few keywords. Based on that, we have built our application. So it's a quite similar to that. Now, speech to text analytic, maybe you can say dependent on automatic speech recognition. Calls are analyzed on what is being spoken during the call conversation. You might have seen, like, means people used to say like, this call is being recorded for the quality purpose. So that is where means it is being recorded. That is why means they wanted to analyze something. They wanted to actually analyze some feedback. Now, non-speech to text analytic, independent of automatic speech recognition, can handle mixed language calls. Calls are analyzed on how speech is being spoken and what is being spoken. So the usage you can say here is speech to text analytics, you can say speaker verification identifiers, which is pretty much you can say Zoom is that same application. Call center automation, speech enabled self-help. Now audio analysis, speaking rate analysis, analyzing emotion in speech. Okay, this is all about speech analytics. Now let me discuss about NLTK. Though we have still 10 minutes, so I will just quickly give you a walkthrough about it. So NLTK, it's a massive toolkit for natural language processing. Okay. Now you wanted to split sentences from a paragraph, or maybe you wanted to split some words. Maybe you recognize the part of a speech of those words. Maybe you wanted to highlight the main subject. And then even with helping your machine to understand what the text is all about. How exactly you will process? You have taught means you have learned means in previous slide how exactly it is being used. Maybe means you have learned overall, you got overall picture, but how exactly it is being used? So I'm just giving you information in a chunks. Now you for using NLTK you have to import this library. Okay, you have to write Python-c import NLTK, and then you will come to know like which version is being used here. You can install even through pip install NLTK, and then once you install it, you do import NLTK, NLTK.download. It will download the NLTK library. Now in NLTK there is functionality called as send tokenize. So you have to import that. So from NLTK library, you will just call dot tokenize and then import send tokenize and word tokenize. Suppose you have an example text like, hello Mr. Smith, how are you doing today? The weather is great and Python is awesome. The sky is pinkish blue and you shouldn't eat cardboard. This is the text. Now you wanted to tokenize into a sentence. Okay, so if you will tokenize it into sentence, then it would be like, hello Mr. Smith is one sentence, and how are you doing today is one sentence. Based on what it is going to recognize, it will automatically recognize based on your, maybe you can say comma, maybe you can say like question mark. The weather is great, Python is awesome, maybe using the dot. So it will automatically tokenize sentence. Now if you wanted to do words of tokenize, then it will give you hello is a different word, Smith is a different word, how is a different, R is a different. So this is how you do send tokenize. How exactly you can use send and word tokenize. Now WordNet is a very rich library. You can see you have to download from NLTK. Okay. Now from there you have to just download Corpora and WordNet. Once you do that, then you just need to import it. You need to use it as an NLTK.corpus import WordNet. Now, suppose you wanted to get synonyms. Okay, how will you get synonyms? I wanted to know computer synonym. Okay, so I have to just write 5 lines of code. That's it. Just you need to call from NLTK.corpus import WordNet library. Then you just make means the empty list synonyms where you are going to place all the synonyms. Now for scene in WordNet or synset computer, you have to just place all the lemmas, means what all synonyms are there, you have to place it in. Now you are just appending that all the synonyms into the synonyms list. Okay, it will give you all the synonyms present there. So maybe computer synonyms are machine, so maybe computing, maybe power. These are all things are the synonyms which you will get from here. Now antonyms from the WordNet, almost similar kind of code. Just you need to use wordnet.synset, where you have used wordnet.synset, and then you have used syn.lemmas. Now here, syn.lemmas, you just need to get antonyms. There you have got synonyms. Okay, so just look, means it's not that much difficult. It's a see hardly 5 lines of code. Now to know stemming, okay, so here you can use, you wanted to get a stem word, means working, what is the root word of working. So how exactly you will get, you just need to call it a stemmer.stem, you will get all. Now for lemmatizing is a real word. What exactly is a real word in lemmatizing? So you just need to get a real word like increases. What is the real word of increases? Maybe increase. Okay, that is the real word. So you just need to run this code. Means it's a 2255 lines of code. You just run, you will get whatever you wanted to get. Now with that, we will finish it by today. And means tomorrow onwards, like tomorrow there are two sessions. So I'll start with machine learning, and then I'll try to finish that with the case study. Maybe 2 case study will cover tomorrow. Okay, and then we'll see when the big data will come. Okay, so yeah, so any questions, please raise your voice, please raise your hand, we can able to give you an answer. So Dinesh sir and Rajesh sir, please, it's like as I'm saying, like people wanted to ask, please let them.
Yeah, if you are having the doubts, you can post in the chat box, or you can directly raise your hand.
Yeah,
So-
please, if you don't want to speak, please let me know. You can post your doubt in a chat box. So still we have 4-5 minutes, so I can take up the question. Guys, please let me let me know if you have any doubt, any sort of questions, maybe for today, maybe for tomorrow. What exactly case study we are going to show? What are, it depends on you. Means what you guys are wanted to ask.
Please ask your questions. And the best way to learn AI or data science is to basically ask questions, because I know that things have been spoken, but they are not easy and they are not understandable. And statistics is very old. We did in several years back in class 12, 11, 12. So that is very old. And after that, we haven't touched that. And a person who has done PhD in statistics, it is much easier for him to follow AI and to do AI programs, because it's all about linear algebra, statistics, probability. So please ask a question.
Okay, sir. I think no one is having the doubt, sir. So we can close the session for today.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Basmati ma'am.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for such an informative and magnificent session regarding data science. I would also thank all the participants for their active participation. Hope you'll raise questions at least from tomorrow onwards. Have a nice day. Thank you.
And one more thing from for tomorrow and day after tomorrow, we have 2 sessions. First session is from 10 to 12, and second one is from 2 to 4. And day after tomorrow also the same thing, 10 to 12 and 2 to 4. So I request all the participants to be in the meeting within time. Thank you.
Okay.